Welcome back to the Titanium Hangar. This is Mike. Happy Friday, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. Today I want to talk to you about something a little bit different, which is a compilation of comments from people over the years that say collecting Masterpiece Transformers is a stress reliever. These are points people pointed out, but you know, I could use some stress relief after this crazy wild week. I've had a whole lot of stuff I've been up to. I could spill the beans on the personal stuff. I don't mind. I don't mind putting my business out there if people are interested. But it's been a crazy roller coaster of a week for me. But it's still kind of fun because it seems to always work out in the end, I guess. But I'm going to go into talking about these specific points that people have brought up about relieving stress through collecting and their hobby. But you know me, there's always another angle, another edge to the sword, another side of the coin, which would be stressors in the game of collecting. We'll get into talking about this and more coming up. So the first stress reliever is that it brings you back to a more simple time, a simplistic time, a simpler time. And people say this, they talk about this all the time. What I want to correlate this to is it reminds people of the media, basically the cartoon, the show, the mindset you were in when you were 6 or 8 years old watching this show. And you watched it with wonder and awe and excitement and future. And it did feel futuristic to kids everywhere. More futuristic than anything else that was out there. And at the time, it had staying power too. It lasted for a while. Now I remember thinking, you know, could I go to one of these power substations and find Megatron, Soundwave, and some Seekers getting some Energon? You know, that was something when I'm riding with my mom to the Walmart or TG&Y, and is that something that could possibly be going on there? Or what could these cars turn into? And all that fun stuff. So there's so much awe and wonder, but your mind was thinking about simplistic ideas and fun and joy. Not stress on some lady says that her food was 127 degrees, and 127 degrees is defined as cold by this lady. Or your water heater broke down, busted, and it's leaking on the top floor or something like that. No, actually, back then the biggest problem was, where do I find a Jetfire? And I want to say with Masterpiece Transformers more specifically, they remind me of the media. Masterpiece more than mainline, definitely more than G1 stuff. They remind me of the media itself, the cartoon show that we watched that caused this wonder, this joy. So yes, it brings me back to a simple time. It brings us back to a simple time. And a lot of people talk about a stress reliever because it brings them back to a time they had little to no stress. Now, I do want to toss this in here, even though it's sort of not part of the topic, but I think it's very relevant. A lot of people have pointed out, and they told me that collecting Transformers was their getaway as a kid when they had a rough childhood. It was the only positive part of their childhood. Now, this is multiple people in the comments that have told me this, and I believe that, I understand that, I empathize with that, and this picture is from Shop Goodwill. Probably sold it in a lot or something, but I think it represents what a played-with collection of toys looks like in the 80s. Next, I want to get into the next point. People say it is a sense of accomplishment when you have a hobby and you progress through said hobby. The more figures you acquire, the more checks on your checklist, which of course goes back to I want the art crew, I want season 1, I want season 2, season 1, season 2, and part of season 3, season 1, season 2, and a couple of season 4. Whatever your checklist looks like, whatever your display looks like, This is something that is a sense of accomplishment. Also with the displays, for me personally, I just wanted some level of background to look like during the cartoon, but since Masterpiece looks like it walked out of the cartoon, the background has to be cartoon, and the pictures don't do it justice. From my vantage point, I don't see the bare walls, and that's something that I have worked on, making sure I don't see it from where I view it. The pictures, to get everything in it the same way, doesn't look as good, but it is what it is. One day I will do the updated video tour. These are old pictures from old video. A lot of stuff has changed. A lot of stuff has changed since then, and maybe 2026 I'll get on that. I've got 10 of the 18 projects left to do before I can do those videos. But this is something many people have said. It's a sense of accomplishment. This is something that people have checked this off the checklist, and with that, it brings them a lot of joy. And it brings them a lot of happiness, it brings them a lot of pride, and all of that together is a de-stressor, or a stress reliever for many, many people. They can come home and look at this sense of accomplishment. You know what? The thing is, you don't have to get a new figure in. That's the thing. And that's what a lot of people have conveyed to me. That they haven't bought a figure for 2 months, but they still love looking at their collection. After getting off of a 12-hour shift like I had done in the past, looking at their collection makes them feel good and makes them feel a bit of all of the stuff we've already talked about, takes them away to a more simple time, and at the same time, sense of accomplishment, and takes your mind off work, which gets into the next one. The transformation, which I disagree with this point, but to each is their own. And I will say this, I'm not bashing any other subgroup of collectors, but I found that Transformer collectors are highly intelligent, and intelligent people want a challenge. And so many people say that the transformation is a stress reliever because it takes your mind off of work, and they're thinking about the transformation, and they're solving a different kind of a problem. I understand all that. I still do not love transforming things. I think it's okay. Let me just back that up. We're staying in the positive. We'll get into the negatives here in a bit, but with that, a lot of people say that it takes the mind off it. I remember when I was working, 55 to 90 hour weeks. That was 10 hours a day minimum. Some days were 12, some days were 19. But when I'd get off work, the last thing I wanted to do was spend my evening transforming a Transformer. I got to tell you that. So one of the things is the fact that I don't have to work like that anymore. That's when I kind of started transforming these. I had the time, but I tell you, it's still not fun. I don't think I truly have the correct level of patience for transforming Masterpiece, but I still do it anyway for the videos, for the viewers. But when you stop and think about it, there's been studies that when you take a break away from work and you do something such as a hobby, and it takes your mind off of said problems from work, something that's challenging your mind, and you're thinking so much that you're not having to think about work, that you are more productive when you go back to work. I mean, it's kind of a simple concept. I mean, whether it's transforming the stuff or watching the show or anything you do with any hobby that takes your mind away from your job, your work, the problems in your life, you can come back to those same problems the next day and be more effective. And there's studies shown on this, down to the point where I was dead set against any employees ever using their phone at work. And studies have shown that if they can just break away from work for 15 seconds or a couple minutes to catch up on what's going on in their personal life, they can get back to work with kind of a clear conscience in a way, knowing that everything's okay in their life, their kids, their family, their friends, their spouses, and all that kind of stuff. And so with that, like, I have kind of crossed a line, across the barrier, and changed over to understanding this aspect. I used to work like a machine, Now we're crossing into negative territory, because I got to tell you this. I truly think Transforming Masterpiece Transformers is a stressor for 70% of collectors. And my unscientific poll shows it stresses people out. Why? Because of breakage. Why? Because of time. Because of scratching paint. Because I didn't get it just right. And I got to tell you, some of the, and I don't want to bash X-Transbots because I like what they do, but some of the X-Transbot stuff, I got multiple comments and multiple broken parts on the last, is it Jian, the blades. And then I broke a piece. So I was like, oh, this sucks. A couple pieces popped off, popped right back on, but the one piece that didn't break, I mean, it's not going to affect my combiner, so I just really don't care. But at the same time, it's frustrating to people. They're stressed out about breaking stuff. And that's an issue. That is an issue. And people say, well, X-Transbots QC and all that kind of stuff. Well, I've got more to talk about that in future videos. But that's part of why the price is low. It is what it is. It's lower than Fans Toys. But with that, yes, I find transformation stressful, and I think 70% of people feel the same way. 30% of people love a complicated, challenging transformation because they have a very stressful job, and to use your mind for something other than work is a nice getaway. And then there's those elite collectors that do not want to use instructions or watch a video and want to do it on their own. I did that for 15 figures, and then I, over the years, found out half of them were transformed wrong. The next absolute stressor, this is not a stress reliever. It's not lever soap or liver. It is definitely a stress point. Price. Especially when you're debating whether I drop $250 or $180. Shows the store price, $180 or probably, I guess. When you're debating spending this kind of money on a figure that you already have, and in some cases 2 or 3 representations. I've actually got 2 Masterpiece Fans Toys versions of Galvatron, and I've got this guy pre-ordered. Price is a stressor for people. Now, some people, they don't care. It's like, oh, I don't really care. But most people, it stresses them out. And with that, I've got another positive at the end of this, another stress reliever at the end of this, the ultimate stress reliever at the end of this. But I guarantee you, it is still pretty nice. The price, nobody really knows what it'll cost on this thing, but most of these masterpieces run from $100 to $250, and then like the bigger ones, City Bots, grand. Combiners, $750 to $1,500. And then back to another stressor is maintaining the display. I'm going to tell you this. In 2018, I built my displays. And I set them up, and I had future-proofed this. And I was like, here's all the characters I think I'm going to have on my display, and I'm just going to, this is perfect. I don't think I'll ever fill it up. And then, boom, it's cram-jammed full, way fuller than I could think. And there's 20 more figures I want to cram in here. And so with that, maintaining the display is really hard. It is a stressor for me. And with that, I have a couple other places I can display other ancillary characters. I don't know why I haven't gone through that process yet, but I probably will before I do the next video for a collection tour. And now, back to a stress reliever, but also at the same time a stressor. So it is dual point. It is the both edges of the sword, both sides of the coin, both different directions of the pendulum swinging, and it's selling your extra stuff. Now, I talk about this too much, probably, but maybe I don't talk about it enough because it's part of the game that you have to be in. So I'm working on 3 Devastators, sold my Toy World, it's gone. I'm working on a lot of stuff. I don't have the Fans Toys Hot Rod anymore. I mean, I'm looking through these old pictures, and I cling to the old pictures because I like to see the progression of where was my collection, where is it going, and with all of that, because I sell stuff off to help fund the next generation of my collection, it's very important to understand that it is a necessary part of the hobby. Unless you're making, six figures or whatever, and you just don't care. But you might want to sell. Get this, six action figures. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm curious what the feedback is. It's the feedback on your feedback in videos like this. I mean, it's not just something I did on my own. It is definitely group work going on right here, I gotta tell you, because I use your comments. Gotta get better at replying to comments on the bigger videos because it's so time consuming. I read them all. It's just so hard to say I'm gonna commit to an hour of replying, but I will do that. I gotta say, what car did you see in the 80s that hasn't been made into a Transformer that you thought, wonder what that would look like as a robot? Like and subscribe. Dear Maker out.